Asia's eastern frontier spans many mysterious and ancient worlds. Home to a huge diversity of habitats, many found nowhere else on Earth. From frozen seas to some of the world's oldest jungles. These secret worlds harbour nature's strangest and most spectacular creatures. But even in paradise, animals must fight for survival. Battling for territory, here at the very edge of the Earth. The mysterious lands that mark Asia's eastern border with the mighty Pacific Ocean stretch almost 8,000 kilometers. From south of the equator to the Arctic Circle. These diverse habitats, covering more than 25 million square kilometers, are known as the Far East. From Taiwan's densely forested mountains to the sea ice north of Japan. The Far East is a place of truly epic natural beauty. And this surprisingly diverse habitat is home to many of the weirdest and most mysterious animals on Earth. At the high altitudes of southern China, snow blankets the mountain peaks all year round. But this remote, inhospitable terrain is home to many species that have adapted to its climate, including a truly bizarre group of primates. This species of snub-nosed monkey make their home almost 4,000 meters above sea level. The highest altitude of any primate. And up here, snow cloaks the forests for months. And it's thought that this monkey's snub nose may have evolved to avoid the otherwise inevitable frostbite in such harsh conditions. Their fur, too, thankfully locks in body heat. So while other mammals must retreat to the warmer valleys, these snub-nosed monkeys have pick of the crop. Although there's no fruit at this time of year, lichens and trees provide sustenance. It seems even this bark is worth a bite. So here in the branches, food is everywhere. Despite the abundance of food, conflict between groups is common, and territory must be defended. Living in groups of 60 monkeys, they must work together to protect their young. and the adults remain on high alert for any sign of danger. Like a rival male entering their territory. As this intruder approaches, defending the territory will fall to this large male. As the battle begins, other group members gather together and call at the invader. And thanks to their huge canine teeth, fights like these can be brutal. The challenger is spirited and powerful. But eventually the pack's biggest male asserts his dominance. And the challenger is forced to flee. They are highly agile, traveling at speed through the trees, and often landing on 2 feet. Notorious for this human-like walking and their strange calls, it's easy to see why these monkeys may have inspired the legend of the Yeti. At night, as temperatures plunge, the whole troop must once again work together. Sleeping in clusters like this will be essential if they are to survive the winter in this frozen corner of the Far East. Despite the variety of habitats in the Far East, it is jungle that dominates. These forests are so dense and large that they create their own weather systems. The moisture, constantly pumped out by these forests, forms into clouds, creating daily downpours that help fuel an ecosystem of immense variety. Among these trees are the richest diversity of animals anywhere on Earth. Birds, insects, predators, and prey. A 160 kilometers from the Chinese coast lies the tropical island of Taiwan. The lush jungles found in the north of the island are home to a population of emerald green tree frogs. Perfectly suited to this rainforest habitat. Despite living in the canopy, this amphibian evolved from aquatic ancestors and still needs the high humidity to keep his skin moist. Feeding on the plethora of insects in the jungle, he'll spend his entire adult life among the branches. descending to the forest floor, only when it's time to reproduce. A few meters away, another emerald tree frog is also looking for love. Around 25% larger than the male, this female is gravid, meaning her abdomen is full of eggs. And she is now on a quest to find her prince. With an abundance of males, she can afford to be choosy, searching for a partner that appears most committed to helping her build a nest. But first, she must be serenaded. Each male tree frog's call is unique, broadcasting its species, size, and availability. Ever hopeful, she will move towards any male call that sounds attractive. This male sounded like a good match for her. But when searching for a prince, you always come across a few frogs on the way. But despite these failed blind dates, her search for Mr. Right continues. And by morning, it seems this old romantic is far from hopeless. Now she's chosen a mate. The female will carry him on her back for several hours. Moving away from the water and the unsuccessful males that didn't impress. It's exhausting, but this is no free ride. Soon they head back to the trees, where he will have to earn his keep by helping to build a nest. Ingeniously, many tree frogs lay their eggs on leaves over water. When fully developed, the tadpoles emerge. Falling from the canopy, safely into water. It may be the Far East's jungles that create its daily rain, but it's the proximity of the planet's biggest ocean that often dominates the region's climate. And here, in the mighty Pacific, a storm is brewing. With winds of around 300 kilometers per hour, a super typhoon is now approaching Asia's eastern coast, generating huge waves. bringing torrential rain across much of the Far East. The rain some countries receive in an entire year falls here in just a few hours. Streams turn to raging rivers, washing away soil, trees, and even animals. The rain may have stopped, and the rivers returned to normal. But having been washed hundreds of meters downstream by the fast-flowing water, this mouse is searching for a way back to dry land. This mouse usually spends its time in the forest. But although he appears reluctant to enter the water, mice are excellent swimmers. He may have evaded the dangers of the water, but among the rocks lurks an even deadlier threat. Perfectly camouflaged amongst the stones, this viper stays so still whilst hunting that even an army of ants crawling over its eyes doesn't distract it from its mission. And only an eagle eye would notice that it's still breathing as it waits for its prey to enter its trap. Having safely emerged from the river, the wet mouse has no idea it's almost within striking distance of one of the deadliest snakes on Earth. But perhaps still digesting another meal, the viper lets the mouse pass by unharmed and continue its journey home back to the forest. But as night falls, he'll face other predators brought out by the heavy rain. Like this Chinese bamboo viper. And this one is definitely on the hunt. Sliding up into the wet branches, this viper will all but disappear. It will now lie in wait for any animal foolish enough to enter its domain. It could be a long night. Or maybe not. Even on the forest floor, the mouse isn't safe. By hanging in the branches, the vipers often strike from the trees, surprising their victims with lightning speed. Still searching for a way home, by climbing through the trees, the mouse makes what could be a fatal error. For now, the mouse may be out of harm's way. But the snake decides to get closer. Undetected, the snake slowly moves into striking distance. Sadly for the mouse, this time there will be no escape. The lethal venom from the viper's fangs quickly does its job. The viper then uses its huge fangs to walk the mouse into its throat. And in just a few minutes, the mouse is gone. The acid in the snake's gut will quickly digest the mouse, and he'll be ready to hunt again in less than a week. The Far East is renowned for its iconic wildlife. Most notorious are over 50 species of monkey, but here in Thailand, a group of macaques have developed an ability they display almost nowhere else. Long-tailed macaques are usually found amongst the trees, eating fruit. But at low tide, this extraordinary troop have learned to harvest a surprising food source. Twice a day, the macaques gather, waiting patiently for the tide to go out. As the water recedes, it exposes a coastline encrusted with shellfish. Due to their tough armor, they wouldn't generally appear on the macaques' menu. It can be a struggle to crack the mollusks open. And bashing them against the rocks is a slow and often wasted effort. So out of necessity came invention. Incredibly, these macaques have learned to use stones as tools. Much the same as our early ancestors, these macaques use stones as makeshift hammers. Applying the perfect force to gently open the mollusks. And this isn't just brute force. Macaques actually select different shaped stones depending on the job. Oysters require a pointed stone. While a heavy, flat stone is used for collected shellfish, nuts, and crabs. Few animals on Earth are able to demonstrate such dexterity with stone tools. For some macaques, learning the technique takes time. But patience is eventually rewarded. But they are also working against the clock. And the troop must move quickly along the coastline at each low tide. They have just a few hours to prize off as many as they can before the sea will submerge the rocks once more. This is one of the few places on Earth where primates have been observed performing this rare ability. Cut off from the mainland by rising sea levels 10,000 years ago, the island of Taiwan harbors many species found nowhere else on Earth. Including one very slow-moving predator. At less than 30 centimeters long, this snake is moving at what is possibly its top speed. But fortunately, the prey it hunts is even slower. Slugs. Taiwan is home to 3 separate species of slug-eating snake. Just like their staple prey, all 3 species emerge after the rain to feed. But thanks to a unique adaptation, the Piraeus atayal prefers to hunt snails. In order to scoop a snail out of its shell, slug snakes have evolved an asymmetrical jaw with a different number of teeth on each side of its mouth. 20 on the right, 11 on the left. But this asymmetry means that it can only eat certain snails depending on the direction of its shell. This one appears to fit the bill. And one of nature's slowest hunts is now on. The snail attempts to make a dash for it. But soon realizes there's nowhere to run. The snake uses its unique jaw to try and suck the snail out of its shell. With its life in the balance, the snail holds on for as long as it can. But eventually, this snake's secret weapon does the trick. The only problem now is how to wipe away the slime with no hands. These snakes are entirely nocturnal. But dawn will bring out another species found on the island of Taiwan. This jungle is home to a species of primate that has adapted to many of Taiwan's different terrains. They are known as Formosan rock macaques, but are commonly found in the trees. Where most of their time is spent searching for food. They will eat almost anything. A mix of leaves, grasses, and fruits. Highly intelligent, these macaques are always thinking up new ways to make foraging easier, like shaking the fruit onto the forest floor. These ingenious macaques have also learned to fish for caterpillars, hoisting them up by their silks. But sometimes, only a certain leaf will do. With so much food, there's plenty of time for this troop to spend building their strong social bonds. Grooming maintains the hierarchy and requires concentration and attention to detail. A keen eye will be rewarded with a tasty treat, and some become obsessive. Although not everyone's fleas are considered a delicacy. But they must always remain vigilant. The youngest macaques are constantly under threat. from aerial predators, such as hawks. But mostly from lone males wandering into their territory, looking for trouble. Although these macaques have a strong female hierarchy, it's the males that must defend the pack against intruders. Luckily this time, it's a false alarm. But it isn't just the Far East's habitat that shapes the behavior of its wildlife. Planetary forces also play a part. Here on Taiwan, tonight is a supermoon. A full moon at its closest point to the Earth. That creates the year's most powerful tide, bringing out 10-legged creatures in their thousands for the most important mission of their lives. The coastal forests of this tiny peninsula are home to 30 separate species of land crabs, the highest diversity anywhere on Earth. Driven by instinct, these land-dwelling crabs must make a journey to the ocean to deposit their eggs. But it won't be easy. The huge variety of crabs here attracts predators both large and small. This Swinhoe's Japelura is searching for a suitably sized meal. But choosing from such a varied menu can be tricky. High up, camouflaged against the branches, he surveys the ground, waiting for the crabs to emerge. Perhaps this one takes his fancy. Too small. Or maybe this one. Too big. How about this one? Perfect. He just needs to keep his eyes on the prize. But these crabs are fast food. This lizard's eyes rely on movement to identify its prey. But now hiding behind the leaf. If the crab stays still enough, it disappears. So the lizard decides to dine elsewhere. And tonight, with so many crabs on the move, he doesn't have to look far. After dark, all the crabs that evade the predators continue their mission to reproduce. Unlike their sea-dwelling ancestors, some land crabs can't breathe underwater and have lived most of their adult lives on land. But they all hatch in the ocean. To breed, the male will grasp the female with his claws before fertilizing her eggs and separating. The female land crab will then carry her clutch of eggs on her body until they hatch. It is then she must make a perilous journey into the waves to release the larvae. How they can predict the lunar cycle is unclear. But it's thought these crabs have been waiting for the strong tides brought by the full moon to release this next generation. To spread their offspring as far as possible, these land crabs must risk their lives. Venturing into the surf as far as they dare, before shaking the larvae into the backwash of the biggest waves they can withstand. The offspring are then sucked out to sea, where they will emerge from these warm, nutrient-rich waters to live out their lives among the trees on this or another tropical island. Almost 3,000 meters above sea level, Taiwan's moonlit forests may be cooler, but things are about to get steamy for another tree-dwelling animal. Having spent all day asleep, this male giant white-faced squirrel may appear absorbed by his own company, but he's always listening out for the sound of a female. He can hear her, but he can't see her yet. Time to find a better vantage point. Hundreds of meters away, on the other side of the valley, is the female. She has now heard his call and is clambering through the canopy to meet him. But these star-crossed lovers have a problem. A moonlit valley lies between them. On the other side, the male also sees the problem, standing in the path of true love. But it seems a squirrel's passion knows no bounds. He makes his way to the very edge of a tree overhanging the gorge. She too creeps along a branch until it barely supports her weight. Now what? He could go around the valley, but squirrels are always in a hurry. Time to use their secret power. In love, as in life, it's often easier to meet in the middle. The Far East also includes some pristine habitats stretching as far north as the Arctic Circle. North of Japan lies the Sea of Okhotsk. In winter, air temperatures dip to minus 23 degrees Celsius. And ice cloaks the coast. With the region's rivers gradually freezing, juvenile Far Eastern salmon head towards the North Pacific, through the Sea of Okhotsk, to escape the sea ice. But one species has found another way to survive this region's brutal climate. While many of Japan's rivers and lakes are still frozen, Lake Kusharo in eastern Hokkaido is a Far Eastern refuge. Volcanic waters have kept part of this lake ice-free all winter, attracting these deafening whooper swans, named after their loud honking calls. Hundreds will spend the winter here at the lake. In pairs that will mate for life. Their calls are used as signals to the rest of the flock. Coordinating the masses so that they will all take off together. But with so many birds, access to the warm water is limited. So squabbles are frequent. He may have won this battle, but as spring approaches, temperatures are rising, and it's almost time to move on. Traveling thousands of kilometers back to their breeding grounds in Siberia, marking the end of winter at this very northern edge of the Far East. in its forests, and along more than 100,000 miles of coastline, animals have adapted to the Far East's rich variety of habitats and harnessed new skills. In these tropical lands, shrouded in mystery, some of nature's strangest creatures continue to thrive, all fighting for survival, here at the very edge of the Earth.